I stormed into the kitchen and found them laughing. Margot and Derek sat at the table with our bank statements spread out in front of them like they'd just won something. My hands started shaking immediately. "You'll never handle life without us," Margot sneered. Her voice was pure venom disguised as concern. Derek just smirked beside her, not even bothering to deny what I was seeing. The shock and anger hit me like a freight train, knocking all the air out of my lungs. "What the hell just happened?" I whispered. They didn't even look guilty. They looked triumphant. Like they'd already won. "My name is Sabrina Holt, and this was the day everything I thought I knew about my life shattered into pieces. I'd trusted them. I'd believed we were a real family. I'd spent years thinking my marriage was safe, thinking Derek loved me, thinking Margot respected me. But looking at their faces, at the pure joy they felt from my pain, I understood that I'd been living a lie. Then I noticed something. A white envelope tucked under Derek's laptop. Something about it made my stomach drop even further. That night, after they'd both left, I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a financial document. It showed my signature at the bottom. It showed me agreeing to give up my savings. But I'd never signed this. I'd never even seen this document before. The forgery was good, but not good enough. The signature was close but slightly off. My heart sank as I realized the scope of what they were doing. This wasn't just theft. This was premeditated fraud. Margot's eyes had flashed with triumph when I'd found them, like she'd been waiting for this moment, waiting for me to discover what she'd done. I could see it now. Derek wasn't the mastermind. He was just following his mother's lead, doing what she wanted, being her puppet. But Margot was the real villain. She was the one orchestrating everything. She'd probably been planning this for months, maybe longer. She'd turned her own son against his wife. She'd manipulated him into helping her steal from me. And now she had forged documents to make it look legal. I realized something terrifying. This went deeper than just money. If they had forged documents about finances, what else might be forged? My career was at stake. My reputation was at stake. Everything I'd built could be destroyed. I went to work the next day like nothing was wrong, but inside I was falling apart. Derek worked in the same building, just a different department. I found him at his desk and pulled him aside to a quiet corner. "Where's the money?" I asked quietly. He knew exactly what I meant. His face went pale. "Sabrina, it's not. I mean, my mom just needed." He couldn't even finish a sentence. His guilt was written all over him. "Did you sign those bank transfers?" I asked. He nodded slowly, refusing to meet my eyes. That's when my boss walked past and saw my face. I could see the concern in his eyes. He could tell something was wrong. I forced myself to smile and excuse myself. I couldn't fall apart here. I couldn't let anyone see how broken I was. But as I walked back to my desk, a colleague named Patricia pulled me aside. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked quietly. "I've been hearing some weird stuff about you from Margot." My heart stopped. "What kind of stuff?" I asked. Patricia hesitated. "Just that you're not reliable. That you've been making mistakes at work. I know it's not true, but thought you should know people are talking." The rumors had already started. A week later, during a team lunch, I heard it directly. One of the newer team members, someone I barely knew, made a comment about how some people in this office just aren't cut out for the pressure. She looked at me when she said it. There was no malice in her voice, just casual dismissal. Like I was already written off. I felt the weight of invisible eyes on me. Other people exchanged glances. They were all wondering if there was something wrong with me. Margot had been busy. She'd been at work, talking to people, planting seeds of doubt about my professionalism. The isolation hit me like a physical blow. I was being attacked on all sides. At home, my husband was stealing from me. His mother was orchestrating everything. And now at work, My reputation was crumbling. That night, I came home and found a note in my office. It was handwriting I recognized, Margot's. The note said, "We're doing this for your own good. Stop fighting us." The threat was clear. I wasn't just facing theft. I was facing a coordinated attack on every part of my life. That's when I started getting smart. I stopped reacting and started documenting. I created a hidden folder on my computer and started logging everything. Every suspicious bank transfer. Every email from Margot that seemed threatening. Every rumor I heard at work. Screenshots of conversations. Times and dates of incidents. I filled notebook after notebook with observations. Then, late one night while Derek was sleeping, I went through his email. What I found made my blood run cold. There was a hidden account. Not just any account, one that Margot had been using to siphon money from multiple people. Family members, friends, colleagues. She'd been doing this for years. Derek wasn't her first puppet. He wasn't even her most important one. I found transfers to people I didn't recognize, amounts that ranged from thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Margot wasn't just stealing from me. She was running some kind of scheme. My hands shook as I copied everything to a secure cloud drive. This was bigger than I'd thought. This was criminal. The next morning, I made a move. I knew Margot had scheduled a meeting with a family lawyer. She was probably planning to help Derek freeze my assets or file for divorce on terms that favored him. I called the lawyer's office, pretended to be calling about a scheduling conflict, and confirmed the meeting details. Then I called the lawyer directly. I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I just said that I needed to speak with them about some urgent matters before any meetings about my financial situation took place. I gave them my number. The lawyer called me back within an hour. I explained, calmly and clearly, that someone might try to present forged documents. I asked them to verify all documents' authenticity before discussing any cases with anyone. The lawyer took it very seriously. By that afternoon, Margot's attempt to schedule that meeting had been derailed. It wasn't a huge victory, but it was something. It was proof that I could fight back. I could be smart. I could anticipate her moves. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt a tiny spark of empowerment. A few days later, Tonya from work caught me in the break room. She looked around to make sure we were alone, then leaned in close. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "Margot tried to do to me what she's trying to do to you. About 2 years ago. She convinced my boss that I was unreliable. Spread rumors. The works." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" I asked. "I quit," Tonya said. "I didn't have the strength to fight back like you seem to be doing. But Sabrina, that woman is dangerous. She has a pattern. She finds people she thinks she can manipulate, and she destroys them. Watch her back at home too. If she can't get to you one way, she'll try another." The realization that this wasn't new, that Margot had done this before, changed something in me. This wasn't just a desperate in-law trying to steal money. This was a predator with a system. Tonya's warning echoed in my mind. Watch her back at home too. I started paying closer attention to Derek. One evening, I noticed him hunched over our shared computer, deleting files. His hands moved quickly, frantically. "What are you doing?" I asked casually. His whole body went rigid. "Nothing," he said, but he closed the laptop so fast it almost seemed funny. Almost. That night, after he fell asleep, I powered the computer back on and dug through the recovery files. He'd been deleting evidence. Emails between him and Margot. Receipts for the transfers. Instructions she'd given him. But he hadn't known about the backup system. I recovered everything. Everything. Conversations where Margot told Derek exactly what to do. Where she told him to manipulate me into giving her access to my accounts. Where she detailed a plan to make me look financially irresponsible so that in a divorce, I'd get nothing. The anger and heartbreak mixed together into something I'd never felt before. Derek wasn't just complicit. He was completely involved. He was following his mother's playbook step by step. The man I'd married, the man I'd trusted with my life, was actively betraying me. I kept digging. I discovered that Margot had been in contact with our family lawyer even before I'd blocked that meeting. She'd been feeding him a narrative about me being erratic, emotionally unstable, and financially irresponsible. She was building a case to discredit me before any legal proceedings even began. In case of divorce, she wanted me to look like the bad guy. She wanted the courts to see me as unfit to manage money, unfit to be trusted. She was setting me up to look crazy while she and Derek came out as the victims. The level of premeditation was stunning. This had been planned for so long. Every step carefully orchestrated. Every contingency considered. Then the workplace sabotage escalated. A private email I'd sent to a client, one that contained my personal notes and private thoughts about a project, somehow ended up with my boss. Margot had leaked it. I knew it was her immediately. She was trying to make me look unprofessional. She was trying to get me fired. My promotion was on the line. I was called into my boss's office and asked to explain why my private email contained what looked like careless observations about our clients. I stammered through an explanation, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. That's when I found the smoking gun. I went through my sent emails and found that Derek had forwarded my private messages to Margot's email address. Not just once. Multiple times. He'd been intercepting my emails and sending them to his mother so she could find something to use against me. My own husband was sabotaging my career on his mother's orders. I attended a charity gala with Derek and Margot about 2 weeks after discovering Derek's betrayal. I needed to see them face to face. I needed to understand how they could smile and pretend everything was normal. Margot was holding court with a small group of people, bragging about some charity work she supposedly did. That's when I did it. Quietly, calmly, I approached the group and asked Margot a simple question. I was wondering when you were planning to return the money you've been transferring to that hidden account. The room went silent. People turned to look at Margot. She stared at me, her face flushing. I don't know what you're talking about, she said smoothly, but I could see the panic in her eyes. Really? I replied. Because I have bank statements. I have emails. I have copies of forged documents. Would anyone like to see them? A waiter passed by at that exact moment and accidentally dropped a document he'd been carrying. When he bent to pick it up, I caught a glimpse of Margot's handwriting on the page. It was another forged document. Another attempt. I picked it up and held it out to her. Seems like you're still at it, I said quietly. People started murmuring. Margot's social circle was beginning to see cracks in her perfect facade. But I wasn't done gathering evidence. Not yet. I spent the next month assembling everything into a comprehensive dossier. I had bank records. I had emails. I had recovered computer files. I had witness statements from people Margot had manipulated before. I had the forged documents. I had screenshots of conversations between Derek and Margot. I had proof of workplace sabotage. Everything was organized, dated, and documented. Then I discovered something even bigger. Margot was planning a major scheme to take over my career path. She'd been talking to people in my company about starting a competing department that would effectively cut me out of everything I'd worked for. She was planning to rebuild her control using my professional network. The realization hit me. She didn't just want my money. She wanted my entire life. She wanted to erase me and replace me with something she controlled. That's when I decided I needed to meet with Derek privately. I confronted him in our apartment when Margot wasn't around. I know everything, I said calmly. I have copies of every email, every transfer, every instruction your mother gave you. Derek's face went white. Sabrina, Why? I asked. He couldn't answer. He just sat there, silent. Did you love me at all? I asked. His eyes filled with tears. Of course I did. I do. But my mother, she has this way of making you feel like you have no choice. Like if you don't do what she wants, everything will fall apart. So you helped her steal from me? I said. For her. He nodded miserably. She said it was just money. She said you had plenty. She said she needed it for something important. The heartbreak was intense, but I masked my feelings. I couldn't let him see how much this was destroying me. I'm keeping all of this documentation, I told him. And you're going to have to make a choice. Either you cooperate with me, or I'm going to use every single piece of evidence against both of you. He looked at me with fear in his eyes. For the first time, he was seeing me as someone who could hurt him. And he needed to understand that I would, if I had to. I started playing a different game now. I leaked small, harmless financial irregularities to a trusted colleague at work. Nothing damaging to me, but things that Margot had orchestrated. When those irregularities came to light, they made Margot look like she was meddling in work business she had no right to touch. She underestimated me. She thought I would just fall apart, would cry, would beg for mercy. Instead, I was using subtle tactics that she couldn't directly accuse me of without exposing herself. She called me one evening. We need to talk, she said. Privately. At home. I knew what was coming. Margot came over on a Saturday afternoon when Derek was out. She was aggressive in a way I'd never seen before. This ends now, she said. You're going to settle quietly. You're going to sign documents saying you won't pursue any legal action. You're going to keep your mouth shut. And in exchange, I'll let you keep a small amount of money to live on. No, I said simply. She went pale. You don't have a choice, she hissed. I can ruin you. I can tell people you're unstable. I can destroy your career. I can make sure you lose everything. I kept my voice calm. I'm recording this conversation, I said quietly. She froze. In this state, I can legally record a conversation I'm part of. So everything you're saying right now, all these threats, they're being saved. Her face went from pale to red. You think you're smart, she spat. But you're nothing. Derek will never choose you over me. And when this goes to court, a judge will see what I see, a desperate woman trying to manipulate her own family. Then she said something that changed everything. If you don't back off, I'll make sure Derek testifies that you're mentally unstable. I'll threaten his career. I'll make it clear that staying with you means losing everything. He'll leave you, and you'll have nothing. Margot's threat confirmed what I'd suspected. She had control over multiple people. She'd manipulated Derek through fear and obligation. Now I understood her system. I started gathering evidence of everyone she'd manipulated. I talked to her sister, Derek's aunt, and discovered Margot had also stolen from her years ago. I found documents showing she'd convinced Derek's cousin to give her access to his investment portfolio. She had a history of this. Years and years of manipulation and theft. But more importantly, I found evidence that she'd been threatening people. Threatening their careers if they didn't comply. Threatening to expose family secrets if they tried to leave. This wasn't just financial crime. This was psychological manipulation on a massive scale. I could use it strategically to protect myself. I requested a private meeting with the HR department at work. I didn't accuse Margot of anything directly. I just presented evidence of someone interfering with company operations and manipulating employees. I showed them the emails. I showed them documentation of someone trying to sabotage a colleague's career. I didn't name Margot, but I made it clear that this person had access to confidential information and was using it to cause harm. HR took it very seriously. They launched an investigation. Margot's influence at work started to crumble. People stopped inviting her to events. Colleagues became distant. A few people even came to me and said they'd realized they'd been manipulated by her. For the first time, I felt genuinely empowered. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was winning. Then Margot called me. "You'll regret this," she said and hung up. The threat was clear, but it was also recorded. I discovered that Derek had secretly withdrawn more money and given it to Margot. $50,000. Money I didn't even know we had. I felt like I'd been punched. Derek wasn't just complicit. He wasn't just following orders. He was actively choosing his mother over me. He was prioritizing her needs over our marriage, over our future, over everything. The shock was enormous. I had believed that maybe at his core, Derek was a good person being manipulated. But this was a choice. A deliberate, conscious choice to betray me even further. I realized that Derek would need to face consequences too. He couldn't just walk away from this pretending he was a victim of his mother's manipulation. Derek's cousin reached out to me one afternoon. His name was Michael, and he was Derek's closest relative outside of Margot. Michael told me something that changed my understanding of everything. Margot had manipulated Derek through his entire life. She'd convinced him that she controlled his inheritance. She'd threatened to cut him off if he didn't obey her. She'd convinced him that without her, he was nothing. Michael said Margot had even fabricated stories about Derek's father leaving because of Derek's weakness, when in reality, Derek's father had left because he couldn't stand Margot's manipulation. The manipulation was even deeper than I'd realized. But knowing it didn't make Derek's betrayal hurt less. It just explained it. And I realized that once Margot was exposed, Derek would finally have a chance to see what she really was. That chance would come soon. I started working on destroying Margot's reputation at work more directly. I found out about a major deal she was trying to broker. One that she claimed would benefit the company but was actually designed to give her more influence. I subtly exposed inconsistencies in her proposal. I asked innocent questions that revealed her plan was flawed. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just presented facts that made her look incompetent. Within a week, the deal was dead. Colleagues stopped respecting her. People who'd once listened to her opinion were now dismissing her. Derek started to worry. I could see it in his face. The confidence was draining away. He was beginning to sense that the tide was turning against his mother. I confronted Derek directly. "I'm divorcing you," I said, "unless you're willing to cooperate with me fully." His face crumbled. "What do you want me to do?" he asked desperately. "I want you to testify against your mother. I want you to give evidence of her manipulation. I want you to help me make sure she faces real consequences." He hesitated. "She'll cut me off," he said. "She'll say I betrayed her." "Yes," I agreed. "She probably will. But at least you'll be free." He left the house that night and went to stay with Michael. I knew he was contacting Margot, probably warning her. But I was ready. I prepared a meeting with HR, a lawyer, and several colleagues who'd been affected by Margot's manipulation. I had everything organized. Every piece of evidence. Every document. Every email. Every witness statement. I'd also prepared backup plans. Margot tried to sabotage the meeting the day before it was scheduled. She called my boss and claimed that I was mentally unstable and that nothing I said could be trusted. My boss, who'd seen the evidence, didn't believe her. He called me to warn me about her attempt. I was grateful but not surprised. Margot was running out of moves. She was getting desperate. The meeting was devastating for Margot. I presented everything calmly, methodically, without emotion. The bank records. The forged documents. The emails showing manipulation. The threats. The interference with work. The pattern of stealing from multiple people. By the time I finished, everyone in the room was staring at Margot with disgust. She tried to defend herself, but every excuse fell apart. She tried to blame Derek. She tried to claim she was a victim. She tried to manipulate the room with tears and wounded pride. But nobody believed her. Not anymore. The evidence was too overwhelming. Derek sat beside her, pale and silent. When Margot saw that her own son wasn't defending her, Something in her face broke. She finally understood that she'd lost control. For the first time in years, Margot wasn't in charge anymore. I confronted Margot privately after that meeting. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just laid out the truth with complete dignity. You manipulated your son. You stole money from your family. You tried to destroy my career. You committed fraud. You threatened people into silence. And now it's all over. She tried to speak, but I kept going. Derek is finally going to see you for who you really are. You're going to face legal consequences. You're going to lose everything you tried so hard to control. She opened her mouth to respond, but something in my composure stopped her. She could see that I wasn't afraid of her anymore. That I'd moved past fear and anger into something stronger. Certainty. That same evening, Derek called. He was crying. "I'm sorry," he said. "I finally understand what you've been trying to tell me. I've been so blind. So weak." I listened but didn't respond. His apology changed nothing. It didn't undo the betrayal. It didn't return the money. It didn't heal the wounds. But it did confirm that Margot's hold on him was finally breaking. At work, I closed the Henderson deal, the major contract I'd been fighting for throughout this entire ordeal. My boss called me into his office to congratulate me. "You've shown incredible strength," he said. "This promotion is yours. Congratulations, Sabrina." 6 months later, I stood in my apartment, the one that was now completely mine, the one I'd forced Derek to move out of during the separation process. Margot faced criminal charges. Derek was in therapy, finally trying to understand how deeply his mother had manipulated him. I'd been promoted to a senior position at work. I'd rebuilt my finances. I'd reclaimed my life. The woman who'd walked into her kitchen and found her world falling apart was gone. In her place stood someone who understood her own power. Someone who could face betrayal and not just survive it, but overcome it. Someone who refused to be a victim. I remembered Margot's confidence, the way she'd smiled when she thought she was winning. I remembered her arrogance, her belief that I was too soft to fight back. She'd underestimated me completely. She'd believed that money and manipulation could break anyone. But she was wrong. Some people don't break under pressure. They transform. They become stronger. They become dangerous to anyone who tries to hurt them. My name is Sabrina Holt. And I won.